a very good afternoon and welcome to the News International edition on this 26th day of April 2023. We are coming to you live from our Vision Group headquarters here in Kampala, Uganda. I'm Emma Akwero. Let's start off today from Kenya, where the Interior Minister has said that the government of Kenya will do whatever it takes to make sure that Mr. Mackenzie is convicted, as the death toll from a suspected Kenyan starvation cult is now up to 90, including many children, and a search for bodies has been paused because the morgues are now full, according to police. The discovery of mass graves in the Shakahola forest near the coastal town of Malindi has shocked Kenyans, with cult leader Paul Mackenzie Nthengi accused of driving followers to death by preaching that starvation was the only path to God.
The death toll from a suspected Kenyan starvation cult climbed to 90 on Tuesday, including many children, as police said investigators were pausing the search for bodies because the morgues were full. Kithure Kindiki, Kenya's Interior Minister, condemned the unfortunate occurrence, acknowledging the extent of the damage to the individuals and the world.
What has happened here is the discovery of serious crimes against the law of Kenya and against international law. It's not a small matter. It's a grave matter.
The discovery of mass graves in Shakahola forest near the coastal town of Malindi has shocked Kenyans, with cult leader Paul Mackenzie Nthengi accused of driving his followers to death by preaching that starvation was the only path to God.
Purported use of the Bible to kill people, to cause widespread massacre of innocent civilians cannot be tolerated under any law on earth and even outside this world. It cannot be tolerated.
There are fears more corpses could be found as search teams unearthed 17 bodies on Tuesday, with investigators saying children made up the majority of victims of what has been dubbed the Shakahola Forest Massacre. Kenya's government has vowed to crack down on fringe religious outfits in the largely Christian country.
The government of Kenya will do whatever it takes to make sure that we convict Mr. Mackenzie and all those who helped him perpetrate his heinous crimes, that they pay with the severest and most painful punishment available.
The majority of the dead were children, according to 3 sources close to the investigation, highlighting the macabre nature of the cult's alleged practices, which included urging parents to starve their offspring. An officer from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, also confirmed that children accounted for more than half of the victims, followed by women. Hussein Khalid, executive director of the rights group Haki Africa, that tipped off the police to Nthengi's activities, told AFP that the cult appeared to require children to starve first, followed by women and finally men. He said 50 to 60% of the victims were children whose bodies were found wrapped in cotton shrouds. Investigators told AFP they found bodies squeezed into shallow pits with up to 6 people inside one grave, while others were simply left exposed in the open air. As the fatalities mounted, the DCI officer told AFP that such teams would have to pause their efforts until autopsies were complete. Kenya's President William Ruto has vowed to take action against rogue pastors like Nthengi, who want to use religion to advance weird and unacceptable ideology, comparing them to terrorists. As the investigation unfolds, questions have emerged about how the cult was able to operate undetected, despite Nthengi attracting police attention 6 years ago. The televangelist had been arrested in 2017 on charges of radicalization after urging families not to send their children to school, saying the Bible did not recognize education. Nthengi was arrested again last month, according to local media, after 2 children starved to death in the custody of their parents. He was released on bail of 100,000 Kenyan shillings or $700 before surrendering to police following the Shakahola raid. Nthengi is due to appear in court on May the 2nd.
Now, the violence in Sudan has caused many countries to evacuate their nationals out of the country. A ship carrying 1,687 civilians from more than 50 countries fleeing the violence in Sudan has docked in Saudi Arabia, the largest evacuation effort by the Gulf Kingdom so far, according to the Foreign Ministry.
A ship carrying 1,687 civilians from more than 50 countries fleeing violence in Sudan docked in Saudi Arabia Wednesday, the foreign ministry said, the largest evacuation effort by the Gulf Kingdom so far. Batul, a Syrian national among the evacuees, explains the pain of bouncing between two war-torn countries as he returns to Syria that is equally unstable. We left our home, our belongings. We left our country, Syria, because of the war, and we came to another country, Sudan, which is also facing war. This experience, which we have lived twice, was very difficult for us, especially since it's not the first time. The situation over there is very difficult, but thank God. Adheim's story is not different as he sheds tears speaking to the media. I left behind so many dreams, many things which I like. Saudi Arabia has received several rounds of evacuees by air and sea since fighting broke out in Africa's third biggest country on April 15th, part of what analysts describe as an effort to position itself as a major player in responding to regional crises. The group that arrived in the coastal city of Jeddah from Port Sudan on Wednesday was transported by one of the kingdom's ships, and the kingdom was seen to provide all the basic needs of foreign nationals in preparation for their departure, the ministry said. It included 13 Saudis, while the rest came from countries across the Middle East, Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas, the ministry added. Some of the other people on the trip carry fond memories from Sudan as they head back home. I didn't spend a lot of time in Sudan, but we are very close to it. Its people are very kind and don't deserve what's happening with them. Sudan is a country where we spent 16 years of our life. It means a lot to us, and we have lived a long period of time there. We left our houses, all our belongings, so for sure we feel as if we are in a nightmare. The fighting in Sudan pits forces loyal to Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan against those backing his deputy-turned-rival Mohamed Hamdan Daglo, who commands the powerful paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. At least 459 people have been killed and more than 4,000 wounded, according to Tuesday figures from the United Nations agencies. Amidst the rising death toll, several countries have had to evacuate their people. Evacuees began arriving in Saudi Arabia on Saturday with boats carrying 150 people, including foreign diplomats and officials. All told, 2,148 people have been evacuated to the kingdom from Sudan so far, including more than 2,000 foreigners, the ministry said.
Now, the Taliban government has killed the alleged mastermind of a suicide bomb attack at the Kabul airport during the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces in 2021, the White House said on Tuesday. This file contains images of smoke billowing after the blast at the airport. Aftermath scenes, the injured being rushed to hospital and grieving family members transporting victims in coffins. Here's more.
Taliban government forces have killed the Islamic State mastermind of a devastating suicide bomb attack at the Kabul airport during the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan in 2021, the White House said on Tuesday. The bomber detonated a device among packed crowds at the airport's perimeter as they tried to flee Afghanistan on August 26, 2021. The blast killed some 170 Afghans and 13 U.S. troops who were securing the airport for the traumatic exit. Abdul Majid, a Kabul resident, has a missing brother who was caught in the crossfire. One of my brothers was at the airport. He wanted to fly abroad. Unfortunately, he's missing after the back-to-back blasts. I don't know whether he is inside the airport or not. Americans are not allowing anyone to go there. Since yesterday, I have been searching all the hospitals in Kabul but have not been able to find him. It was one of the deadliest bombings in Afghanistan and prompted a wave of criticism of President Joe Biden for his decision to pull American forces out of the country nearly 20 years after the U.S. invasion. Taliban authorities have since killed the leader of the Islamic State cell that planned the attack, White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said in a statement. He was a key ISIS-K official directly involved in plotting operations like Abbey Gate and now is no longer able to plot or conduct attacks, Kirby said, referring to the spot outside the airport where the attack took place. ISIS-K refers to the Islamic State Khorasan, the branch of the group operating in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Taliban government officials have so far not responded to AFP requests for comment. The pullout, ending on August 30th, 2021, saw Taliban fighters sweep aside Western-trained Afghan forces in just weeks, forcing the last U.S. troops to mount the desperate evacuation from Kabul's airport. An unprecedented military airlift operation managed to get more than 120,000 people out of the country in a matter of days.
Now, the war in Ukraine still rages on. The latest images show the aftermath of a Russian strike on a local history museum in Kupiansk, a city near the front line in the northeast of Ukraine that has killed 2 and wounded 10.
President Volodymyr Zelensky on Tuesday said Russia was trying to erase Ukraine's history and culture after a missile strike on a museum killed 2 people and wounded 10. Zelensky reported the strike on a local history museum in Kupiansk, a city near the front line in the northeast, and gave an updated toll in his evening video address. Russia killed 2 women with this strike. 10 people were wounded. They are being provided with the necessary assistance, he said. Earlier, he had reported 1 death, accusing Russia of killing Ukrainians with absolutely barbaric methods and doing everything to destroy us completely, our history, our culture, our people. He posted a video on Telegram of people in military uniform walking through the rubble of a partly destroyed building with its windows shattered. In his video address, he said Russia had in total destroyed more than 60 museums and galleries. Ukraine regained Kupiansk, a key rail hub in northeastern Ukraine, in September. As fear mounted that Russia may be pushing to retake the city, Ukraine ordered vulnerable residents to evacuate at the beginning of March. Andriy Kanashevik, the acting head of the Kupiansk district military administration, echoed the same, however, regretting that whereas buildings could be rebuilt, people could not be brought back to life.
Будівлі то таке, ми їх відбудуємо, все буде.
We can rebuild buildings, we will renew everything, but unfortunately, we are losing people who are already few. Those who are ready to work even in these difficult circumstances. May they rest in peace. We and our military will undoubtedly do everything to revenge. Images released by the National Police of Ukraine in the Kharkiv region show policemen and rescuers pulling a victim out of the rubble after a strike in Kupiansk. No information about whether she's alive or dead was provided. So far, we know about the dead employee of the museum and 10 wounded. There are still people under the rubble. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky wrote on Telegram after the strike occurred.
The News International edition will now take a short break, but please stay with us.